6 days to go before you decide who'll be running the country for the next 3 years. Now, we've seen the great debate, heard the policy speeches and all the interviews, some would say ad nauseum. Yet, if you can trust the opinion polls, a lot of voters still haven't made up their minds. Perhaps that's because many Australians are disenchanted with both the government and the opposition, and that may be good news for the minor parties. But whatever you think of the major players, the fact remains that after March 24, Australia's future will be in the hands of either Peacock and Hewson or Hawke and Keating. Prime Minister, Mr. Keating, thank you very much for coming to the studios tonight. I'd just like to point out to the viewers the strictures under which this discussion is being recorded this evening. In 21 years of interviewing Mr. Keating, since he first came into the Parliament back in 1969, he has never imposed conditions on his television appearances with me. He has tonight. The Treasurer has insisted that every word he utters at this recording session is in fact broadcast. That is to say, his words are not to be edited in any way. Mr. Keating has made his appearance tonight conditional upon us agreeing to that. The Prime Minister has imposed no such condition. Well, gentlemen, thank you very much for coming. Mr. Hawke, is it not amazing that despite interest rates being what they are, terrible inflation, almost daily corporate collapses, appalling current account and foreign debt figures, that you're likely to get re-elected next week?
If they were the only facts that were relevant, yes, the answer is it would be amazing. But of course it's also relevant that we have record employment growth, investment at a record level in proportion of gross domestic product, our manufacturing industry recording record levels of exports, our children now staying on in school in numbers, double what they were before, and the most needy in the community being compassionately cared for. Now, when you put those things into the equation, it's not amazing.
The result on interest rates is now, after 7 years, 17%, you're responsible.
Well, I am responsible too, if we're going to claim responsibility. I and the Treasurer and our colleagues are responsible for the fact that we've had a rate of employment growth 5 times faster than our opponents had, twice as fast as the rest of the world, a massive reduction in unemployment, and a doubling of the number of our kids staying on in school. We're responsible for those things too.
But, Mr. Keating, if 17% is the best you can do after 7 years and they can do 5% in Japan, isn't it time to get out of the way and make room for someone who can do better?
Richard, let me take your first point up. I did this interview with you tonight on the basis that it would be like a live interview. If I do Yarn Event live, it goes live. We're doing this, I want the public to see what's actually said and not to find either your questions or my answer on the cutting room floor. So
you impose the condition that you be not edited.
I'm giving the public a break you weren't prepared to give them.
No, 21 years.
Let's be clear about that.
Yes, but of course, let's be clear. In 21 years, you have never imposed any condition like that on me ever.
This is 1 week before an election campaign.
Well, how many elections have we had since 1969?
Look, normally we do this live on a Sunday evening, and what we're doing is the equivalent of doing it live. How can you complain about that?
I'm not complaining. I'm simply pointing out.
You're taking a fair bit of time about it.
Yes, I know, but let's be clear about it.
Very
I'm simply
picky,
pointing
Richard.
out.
Very picky, boy.
Not
very
at all.
picky
No.
there, boy.
Pointing out the unique condition that you've imposed on this interview that you haven't imposed in 21 years.
Just because I can't remember doing one with you, Richard, 1 week out from a campaign. And if I was doing one with Yarn Event or anyone else, it would be live.
Well, I could remind you of 1972, 1974, 1975. 1983.
You're on the big issues. You're on the big issues, Richard.
Yes. Well, we'll go back to the point.
You're a big issue person.
Yes. Well, the big issue, of course, is 17% interest rate produced by you after 7 years. And the question was, if after 7 years that's the best you can do when they can do 5% in Japan, maybe it's time for you to get out of the road and make room for someone who can do better.
We've also had twice the rate of growth per year in the last 7 years. We've had it in the previous 7. We've had twice the OECD average employment growth. We've had a faster, stronger, wealthier economy, and when the terms of trade picked up unexpectedly in 87-8, it produced big spending effects which were met with a big interest rate effect. It's as simple as that.
You're going to be Prime Minister for the next 3 years?
Well, if they elect me on the 24th of March, which I hope they will, then the answer is an unequivocal yes.
Right. So he has to wait 24 years, a 24-year apprenticeship. He's done 21 years in the Parliament so far, another 3 before he gets a crack at your job.
I'm doing well.
He's doing, as he says he's doing well, and he's happy. The important thing is that he went into Parliament early. He's been a magnificent Treasurer, and by the time that I give it away, he would come to the Prime Ministership at what I would believe would be a younger than the average age of Prime Ministers in the past.
Is he going to spend the next 3 years as Treasurer?
If he wishes to. I mean, my position is, and Paul and I have discussed these things, that if he wants to remain Treasurer, then that's his position.
If he wants foreign affairs, can he have it?
Well, if he asked for foreign affairs, I'd have to think about it. But on the discussion we've had,
be asking, Bob.
he won't be asking. He regards the treasurership.
doing a great
He
job,
regards the treasurership as the next most important job.
You happy to sit around for another 3 years and play second fiddle?
I'm happy to be led by the most successful Prime Minister in the post-war years. It's a pleasure for me. It's been a matter of great sense of accomplishment for all of us that have been in this cabinet. We are a very happy ship, and if I might just say, we're a very happy couple.
Yes,
That's
but
true.
you wanted his job 17 months ago.
I know. I mean, look, Bob and I would be the first to admit that these jobs produce a few strains and pressures. They do. But we are 7 years on. We're into our 8th year now, and considering the pressures we've had in this economy, to pick it up from basically a recessed heap to what it is today, has been an enormous amount of change, and I think we've weathered it fantastically.
Yep.
Under what circumstances would you try to knock him off again?
Well, Richard, you use all these crass terms. I mean, it's unbecoming of you.
It's unbecoming of me.
Yes.
Well, let me ask you if some of your language is becoming of a Prime Minister when you referred to the opposition as like a dog returning to its vomit. When you use language like harlots, sleazebags,
Rudyard
pigs,
Kipling.
mugs, criminals, loopy crim, stupid foul-mouthed grub, piece of criminal garbage, alley cat, gigolo, perfume gigolo, scumbag scum, thug, gutless spiv, and champion liar.
Well, that's
now,
over-
is that becoming of the
that's-
Treasurer or the Prime Minister?
That are bits and pieces of words picked up over 20 years of going through Hansard. You go through Hansard for 20 years of anyone on the Liberal side, you'll find similar terms, and mostly when they're attacking me personally.
Do you apologise for any of
But
that?
I never attacked them personally.
Do you apologise for any of that?
Howard, that was Howard's one success in politics in the last 3 years. He laid that on me. I made him pay the price of losing the Prime Ministership as a result.
Do you apologise for any
So
of
I
that?
thought it was a more than even swap.
Should I ask you again?
Eh?
Do you apologise for any of that?
Oh, I don't apologise. I'm not in the apology business. Look, in some countries they settle their politics across the street. In Lebanon they shoot each other.
Yeah, but this is
In
not
this
Lebanon.
country it's settled in the clearinghouse of pressures, the House of Representatives, and it works very nicely. And people like you understand well how it works. You've made your living off reporting it.
Yeah. Do
So
you think
why
that-
denigrate the process, Richard?
But do you
You're
think
one of the people who've actually lived off it.
Do you think Australians may have had enough of your style, though? Enough of the foul language
but what
and the
about,
Italian
but
suits?
hang on, that's over. I mean, you're really a big issue person, aren't you? Here you are, you've got a chance 1 week out from an election to look at the big issues of growth, employment. I mean, you had an important place in Australian society on the ABC, and you gave it up to be a pop star, and now with a big cheque, and now you're onto this sort of stuff.
Then you've spent half this time on issues which are irrelevant and, may I say, very unfair to Paul. I mean, why don't you look at the fact that in those years in Parliament, he's made a series of brilliant, penetrating speeches in opposition and in government, recognised, a lot of people argue he's the most effective parliamentarian there is. I mean, made a series of brilliant speeches, and out of all that period you pick up some language. I mean, part of the fascination of the character is that he's got a turn of phrase which is a bit tough and rough.
Yes, but
it's part of a much more broad range of capacity. Why don't you give him credit for that?
Well, sure, got all the credit in the world, Prime Minister,
Well,
but the
I
point
haven't
is...
noticed it.
No, but if one was to allow him to, in this context, to talk on about those subjects without being allowed to
Well,
edit it,
Richard,
may I say,
Richard,
then we'd be in question. We'd
Richard,
have the interview not in our control.
Richard, at least 4 or 5 of those words were said when I was accused of having an illegitimate child. What would you say when I didn't? What would you say?
I thought it was pretty outrageous what was said to you
Yeah,
at the
that's
time.
right, but you don't think I should have responded?
Of course you should have responded.
Well,
What are
okay.
you going on about?
Well, you've also got to live by the words that you use.
Oh, my friend, I don't ever worry about that. Look at all this. Look at those
What a
14.
profound interview.
What are these? Look at those 14 economic statements. Look at them. They're that big you can hardly jump over them. Which took us 6 and 8 months to put together.
Is
All
one
of
of
that, all that concentrated work, which you're not even referring to.
Is one of the reasons why the economy is in the present shape because we're not manufacturing anything in this country. We're not manufacturing the cameras, the lights, anything here, the suits, that sort of thing.
Let's
Not
take
true.
the facts.
It's not true.
We are, in this country, so transforming our manufacturing industry that in the last 4 years, we have had a 54% increase in the exports of manufactured goods. We are one of the most efficient producers and exporters of steel in the world. exporting cars and motor components to Japan and the United States.
We're rebuilding Australia from an agrarian rump that produced a bit of wheat and wool to a modern industrial state.
7 years,
and
you've
you're
had
not
how
going,
much longer?
And we've concertinaed 20 years of policy changes into 7. There was no investment in this economy for 20 years up to 1983. That's why we've got a problem, because the Conservatives dropped the ball for nearly 2 decades.
Let's
and
say
what
we
you're
believe
saying,
you, let's say we believe you. 7 years you've had how much longer?
well, look at the growth. Look at the growth in the economy and the employment in the economy. We're now putting the capital stock in at a rate which is unprecedented to produce goods right through the 1990s to pull the current account down. I mean, the really substantial thing, the one thing that will get us out of trouble is production. And it can come from one place only, not wishful thinking, investment. And how do you get it? By keeping profits up, by having a proper social wage. And we've got both. We've got all things happening at once in spades. In spades.
And in addition to that, a savings plan unparalleled in this country, superannuation, with which my friend and colleague Keating has been intimately associated, the development of superannuation. Now, look at that.
Because we can't edit his remarks, I'm sorry, I've got to keep to time and I must edit in now. So thank you. Mr. Keating, thank you too.
Thank you.
Thank you, Richard.
After the break, the Liberal alternative, Peacock and Hewson. Late stage of the campaign, the coalition must be considered the underdog. But they're hoping that a swag of swinging voters will decide at the last moment that the answer is Liberal. As for the questions, well, I've put some of them to the opposition leader, Mr. Andrew Peacock, and the Shadow Treasurer, Dr. John Hewson. And for the record, they imposed no conditions on this interview. Dr. Hewson, tell me, did Mr. Peacock show poor judgment? Was he wrong when, in response to a question from Peter Luck, he predicted that under a Peacock government there'll be massive falls in interest rates?
We've talked, Richard, consistently about significant and sustainable falls in interest rates.
He said massive. Was he right or wrong?
Look, we're not playing with the words.
No, I'm just asking you a straight question. He said massive. Was he right or wrong?
I can't scale what you think or what anyone else thinks is massive. I'll tell you significant and sustainable because we're going to lower the inflation rate in Australia to broadly in line with that of our trading partners. It's currently double that, so we've got a long way to go. It's a significant fall. We want it to be a sustainable fall.
Well, if you can't work out what he means when he says massive, how's the electorate supposed to work it out?
But there's no point in debating the semantics. The important point is that we've got the policies to bring interest rates down. And that's what the electorate needs to know. They know that we've got the policies and that we'll put them in place.
Mr. Peacock, is now the time to admit that you made a mistake in saying massive?
No, and I'm not playing games either, and neither are people listening to this program and listening to you, perhaps playing on the periphery, Richard. I mean, if they had just come home, a husband telling his wife that he just lost a job, that they were having difficulty clothing, feeding, educating and housing their children as they are now.
You said massive, didn't you? You said massive, didn't you?
Yes, I did indeed, and throughout...
And you stand by it?
But I have said throughout, you'll have noted, that in fact what I'm seeking to achieve is significant and sustainable falls, and I will.
And do you stand by massive?
Treasurer. I've told you that I'm not in the game of playing on the periphery as you are. There are too many things to be fixed in Australia today than simply playing on the side with you. And if there are a few more journalists prepared to ask about the central issues in this campaign, the electorate would be better informed.
Well, it's amazing, so that you won't say whether you stand by your words of the 14th of December last.
I don't find that amazing at all, Richard, because in fact what I've said is that we have the policies and the programs to get inflation down and therefore get interest rates down. And they will come down in a significant and sustainable way. Now, I don't care if you want to choose any other words at this juncture. Throughout the campaign, that's what I've said. They mirror accurately what we're on about, and they mirror accurately what we'll do for Australians.
So in summary then, maybe you did mean massive when you said massive, and maybe you didn't.
Look, Roger made a fortune out of playing with various words, and you probably have bought his text as well as so many others in Australia. But the fact is, what I've said is that the programs we're addressing will bring both inflation and interest rates down and address the problem for most Australians who are finding difficulty making ends meet at the present moment.
Apart from the obvious reason that he doesn't like you, why do you think it is that John Howard is seemingly making your life so difficult during this campaign?
I'm not finding that at all. I'm finding that John...
You must be the only one in the party that's not.
No, that's not true, Richard. No, that's not true. In fact,
Do you think
John has been a major
making life
contributor to the
difficult?
campaign.
Is John Howard making life difficult?
No, I think that the campaign should be concentrating more on major issues, and John Howard has been trying to do that. as much as Andrew Peacock has been trying to do that, as much as I've been trying to do that. And let's get the electorate onto the major issues, each from our own portfolio, in Andrew's case, across the board.
Yes, but isn't Howard making it difficult when he says things, as far as our prospects for interest rates are concerned, falls in interest rates in the foreseeable future are simply not on? When he says in the immediate future the prospect of any significant falls are zilch.
I think if you go back through the text of what we've all said, we may use different words, we may express ourselves differently, which is only natural with different people. But we are all basically saying the same thing about the policies we've got to bring interest rates down.
Tell me how you and John Howard have been productive over the last 5 years that you've been at each other's throats.
Well, I don't know that if you dwelt on that side of it, where there have been differences before us, you could define it as productive. In fact, it's been debilitating in the past for the party. And that's why we've had difficulties sorting that out, and we did. It's better to face that and say it. I'm not going to deny that those difficulties weren't there, any more than Hawke or Keating could deny that they had differences between them, and they got over them, they allege. But in my case, we're working very, very constructively together. And in fact, John will play a key role in the incoming government and be a significant minister in that.
Were you being productive over the last 5 years when your energies were devoted to either building yourself up or pulling him down?
No, that's not the case. There were arguments
Well, you
over
weren't
policy
productive.
in the past. No, it wasn't.
Isn't it turning Australian politics pretty much in its head when one of the stockbrokers, Potter Partners, can predict a surge in the stock market of 15% if Labor gets back?
Well, I don't think that any stockbroker is a seer beyond belief. I think that, in fact, many people are predicting all sorts of things, irrespective of who comes in. But what we're saying to you is we're the only ones providing for change. And that change is necessary as Australia faces the brink of an economic crisis.
Yeah. Dr. Hewson, you must be a bit of a disappointed man.
Why would you say that?
Well, because with the government's record on interest rates, it's appalling. The government's record on inflation rates and inflation, it's appalling. The foreign debt level is disgraceful. You should be a shoo-in to be Treasurer a week from today if you weren't led by such an unpopular man.
That's a ridiculous comment. Come back on the 24th of March in the evening and see where you stand on that. Those factors and the fact that we have the policies to turn those problems around will get us there, and I'll be Treasurer, and Andrew will be Prime Minister, and he'll be a very good Prime Minister.
But you'd be more likely to be Treasurer were you led by a more popular leader.
Now look, in difficult economic times, popularity doesn't mean anything. They
Doesn't
just
it mean
have to
votes?
believe that you've got the policies, that you'll put them in place, and that you'll do the job. And all we really want people to do is accept the fact that when we get there, we will put the policies in place. We don't want to be popular, and you know, they will have then 3 years to assess us. If they don't like us after those 3 years, they can vote us out. But we can put those policies in place, and popularity doesn't matter in that game.
Mr. Peacock, I want to suggest to you that Liberal Party promises to cut government expenditure are simply not plausible given the atrocious record that the Conservative governments have had in this country in that very field.
Well, I would disagree, Richard. There are very firm commitments here. Now, they weren't easy to reach, some of them, but they have to be done. For example, the cutting of the dole back to 9 months. We have a safety net for those who can't get a job. It's tough, but we're saying to people, if you have the capacity to work, you're going to have to work. And we have a net saving there of some $700 million. And the $2.7 billion that we're going to cut will go to families by way of tax relief, and it will be done.
Why should you be believed this time round when Liberals have made promises to cut government expenditure election in and election out and have failed?
Well, unless we do it, then there's going to be a bankruptcy rate in this country never seen before, and there's going to be an economic crisis in this country that we haven't handled other than the 1930s and the 1890s. And let me at least give credit to this current government that's now on the wane, but it learnt from the mistakes of the Whitlam era. And for all its own mistakes, it is not practiced and governed in the same way that it did. And we've looked at governments of our own persuasion in the past, and we are determined not to do the same. And we have therefore set down a tax and expenditure plan and blueprint which is the most comprehensive ever put before the Australian people.
So are you saying you have learned from the mistakes of Fraser? He was all talk and no action on cutting government expenditure.
Well, no, I don't agree with it. Malcolm was all talk and no action, because the reality is you can show that he cut significantly into the rate of increase in the public sector. Well, you can, but
significantly into the rate of increase.
Exactly.
That's not much of an achievement, is it?
But at the same time, I'm not here to spend all my time debating about the past, but I'm drawn on the lessons of the past.
When is Prime Minister Peacock going to give us 5% housing interest rates such as they have in Japan?
It would be nice to do it immediately, wouldn't it? And
nice to do it ever.
Viewers to this program know just how different it is elsewhere, because at least some weeks ago You ran a segment in your program that showed just how high Australia's interest rates are to other countries in the world.
When are you going to
We
give
can
us 5%?
Well, on the first day, I will put down the policies, and the market will have to react to those. We don't set the rate, as you know, the market does. But as for me saying on a given day they'll be 5%, no one is capable of saying that.
Maybe one day under Prime Minister Peacock that'd be 5%?
It would be a marvellous thing to aspire to.
To achieve?
Well, I would like to achieve it, but I've got to resurrect this economy. Resurrections aren't confined to Israel and can be done.
When he resigns, will you stand as a candidate for the leadership?
I came into Parliament to try and be Treasurer. I'm about 7 or 6 days away from that. That's my aim. I just want to be remembered as a Treasurer that did what he said he'd do. I have no leadership aspirations beyond that. I don't want to be the world's greatest Treasurer. I just want to be a good Treasurer and remembered for having done what I said I'd do.
Dr. Hewson, thank you. Mr. Peacock, thank you. Can we see you on the program next Sunday, win or lose?
Yes, you certainly can, Richard.
Win or lose?
That's right.